normal streamer does. So, as I was saying, we've got Dark Devil for 13th Legion and CBJ Lang for Old Men. Those are the new players that have rounded this out for 4v4. So I reckon Moonlight is possibly PBTD then, but maybe someone can confirm or correct that. In terms of the teams, we have Yannick as Mayan flank here versus Q as Mayan flank, so mirror matchup there. I guess between those two players, we're just going to be seeing things like plumed archers and siege rams. I guess those mines are still possibly viable to mix in some monks and such, but certainly kind of Imperial Age plumed archers is the expectation that we have. I've actually only watched probably a handful of high level arena team games, so. And to be honest, like arena isn't something that I watch a great deal of, or indeed play a great deal of. So, in terms of high level arena, like team game, meta game, I may be in for a couple of surprises here. So don't be surprised if I kind of say something and it turns out to be completely different to what I've predicted. I'm certainly not like the most experienced arena caster, but moving on, we have Vodka as the pocket for as Persians, and he is going to face Moonlight as Persian pocket. So this whole top half of the map is completely mirrored, and on the southern half of the map we have Spanish for Melkor, and but do we have Spanish? Really, is this completely mirrored? We have Spanish for CBJ Lang, and then we have Dark Devil as Mongols, and finally a non-mirror. We have Aztecs for Feng Jin, so otherwise known as Paladin, of course. So will we be seeing Paladin going for a little bit more of a 1v1 style? It's like Aztec Siege. Oh, here we go. Save and restore. Siege Monk Rush. Like perhaps we will, which would be interesting to see how that actually works out in a 4v4. Let's just go straight out and get into the second part of that game, because it seems they saved and restored. Hopefully the scene switcher actually works this time. Let's load part 2. There we go, straight into it. Don't think we really lost any time with that. Yeah. So as I was saying, Civ's 100% mirrored except for this bottom flank where we have Aztecs versus Mongols. I am quite surprised to see no Mongols for the Chinese team. As I was saying, I've not seen very many 4v4 matches on Arena at all at top levels, but I am surprised that any team would want to go into a game which is 4v4 on a map where you can have like a protected economy until late in the game, providing you avoid any shenanigans, and go into that sort of matchup without Mongols. There's such a late game powerhouse that I'm surprised that they haven't actually taken them. But Aztecs obviously extremely nice on Arena. They are pretty much the top 1v1 Arena civ if you are able to pull off a kind of smush style gameplay, because it's just so hard to counter if the opponent is very skilled at it. But as I was saying, it'll be interesting to see if Feng Jin, if Paladin actually does something like that in a 4v4, because the problem is if you do that in a team game, like it just can work so well 1v1, but you can just come and get cleaned up by one of your opponent's teammates while you're trying to do it, you know? So it may be that instead of any kind of smush thing, what Paladin's actually going to be doing is just trying to make use of Aztec Imperial Age Eagle Warriors or something. I'm going to be interested to see that, because as I say, you know, I've not seen too many games like this before. I've seen of millions of Arabia games, a few aims for example, but not too many arena games at this in 4v4 at this level. So the moment it's just a case of trying to figure out what each player may be going for. As I say, I guess we'll see plumed archers from both players up here, which means they'll probably be going on to stone fairly shortly to begin preparing for the castle that they will need. Gonna guess that Dark Devil, like ideally he would be wanting to play a bit more of a boom game to get to Elite Mangudai. But the question is, like, will he be allowed to do that by the Aztec opponent that he is facing? Someone suggesting in the chat Aztec Sling, and I think that that is a very good possibility as well, because obviously an Aztec Sling is very, very strong as well. In a lot of situations, like Vikings could be considered the like #1 pure slinging civ. But the thing is, if you're Vikings, then once it gets to late game, you can't really do anything else. Whereas the Aztecs can actually still be useful because they've got units like Eagle Warriors and Siege Onagers and things like that, and they've got obviously incredible monks, and you get the relic bonus. I loved what happened at the wall there actually. Paladin has been spending. So what I was saying there, you could actually transition out of the sling if you started off slinging, etc. But I just noticed while I was saying that funny thing happening at the wall, which was that Paladin was trying to lure this deer in through the hole for ages, and deer can be really like mischievous when you're trying to lure them just through a 1 or 2 tile gap in a wall, and Dark Devil just blocked the lure with his own scout. It was quite amusing. See a lot of flaring coming out for the 13th Legion team. There was one here and there was some over here, so I think they were just flaring relics, so it looks like one of their players at least will probably be going with monasteries and trying to get hold of those relics for their team. That will be a really good thing if they are able to do, because the Chinese team does have Aztecs on their team, so they'll want to deny that Aztec bonus. Yeah, I do try to get into the habit of using the arrow keys a little bit, because something that I noticed that I have been doing in my limited time streaming is I would click on the minimap and drag it around like this, which is kind of good for me but really hard for you to see sometimes, or it's really kind of disorientating. And the mouse scroll speed, like doing this to like go to the edges, can be quite annoying as well, so I've kind of tried to use the arrow keys a little bit as well, which I know Clemenceau does too, but unfortunately my microphone, just no matter what I set it to, will not filter that out. But yeah, it's finding the right balance of ways, I guess. Trying to see one. Looks like Yannick losing his Eagle Warrior now, but at the same time, Q was under threat of doing that, from losing his own from Vodka's Scout, which obviously becomes stronger than the Eagle Warrior, and Q's Scout was damaged anyway, but that will be chased away by Moonlight. Yannick flaring these golds here, so I'm not sure if he's flaring his own extra golds or whether they belong to Q. Let's have a look. Now these must be Yannick's extra golds, so what Yannick is doing there is he's saying to his teammates that Q's extra golds are way outside of his walls and very exposed. In fact, that one is closer to Yannick, so it could be that Yannick is thinking about being quite ambitious with his castle here. I was saying we'll be seeing villagers going onto stone for a castle to come up for the Ryan players soon, but the question is, like, would Yannick have done something to maybe protect his main goal, or maybe over here or something to protect the entrance into his base? But he's looked at the map and seen where Q's extra golds are, and he's decided to just go and put the castle right on top of Q's extra golds by the looks of it. I think he did some kind of like
Yes.
palisade scouting there, because there was one palisade tile that has now disappeared. Yannick continuing to flare as well to say, and that's interesting. It seems like Yannick just got sling from Dark Devil. So are we seeing a Mongol sling here? You don't see that every day. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm sure they have their reasons, but it's kind of odd, is all I would say. Maybe they're just looking at the Aztec and maybe thinking that the Aztec is going to sling, so they'll just have slings versus sling on this flank or something like that. But Mongols are great, and they're especially great when your opponent don't have them. And just for me personally, I find it kind of odd that they're gonna use the Mongol sling, but it could be that Dark Devil's just tributing a bit to allow Yannick to just kind of seize the initiative a little bit here, and then he's gonna just boom up afterwards. Seems like Paladin is gonna go for that kind of 1v1 style Aztec smush, and if Dark Devil is slinging, then he's gonna have to put up a hell of a lot of stone walls, and even they aren't going to actually save him for that long. And yet, more sling from Yannick to Dark Devil. So, Paladin is going to be smushing against an opponent who is slinging. It's going to be interesting to see how that works out. Has stream crashed? Well, I'm watching it on my phone as I stream, and it hasn't crashed as far as I can see. Think so. Really? Okay, I'm going to pause. Can I get some messages from the chat, please, to just tell me that the stream is still functioning? As I watch it on my phone, it hasn't crashed, but I can see a lot of messages from the chat. Okay, right, yeah. So I'm just going to do, just before I unpause, I'm just going to do a quick recap, as it seemed like it did crash for a lot of you. Basically, what's going on is that Dark Devil is slinging as the Mongols, which is kind of odd, because you don't want to waste the kind of Mongol late game like that, I would have thought. Paladin is going hard against him with a 1v1 style Aztec smush, and Dark Devil is slinging Yannick, who has castle dropped the extra golds off Q. So let's unpause and carry on. Just try and see if there's any sling going on for the Chinese team. The spectator overlay should be able to tell me if it's not bugged out like it was before. But only Yannick is receiving sling from anyone, so there's no slinging going on amongst the Chinese team.
Yes.
Keep hearing yes in the background. That's just the players writing one to each other, I would have thought. Look at that. With the sling, Yannick has clicked up to Imperial Age already. Starting to make Plumed Archers and a Mangonel, and starting to take Q's extra golds. Q is re-walling a bit, sensing the danger. He may think that he's up against a slung opponent, because this number of stone walls for Dark Devil may have clued Paladin into the fact that Dark Devil is slinging, even though he's the Mongols. Let's just have a look at what the other players are doing, because we've concentrated quite a lot on what's going on over there. Seems like Melkor's just booming onto 3 TCs at the moment, as Spanish will... I guess if he's just going for a big boom, then we're getting to the sort of the 20-minute mark when you tend to see kind of the 4th TC kicking in. Persians on as for Vodka onto 4 TCs already, and he's having a great boom. He's like so many villages ahead of anyone already. Even the opposing Persian player, he's up ahead by close to 10 villages. Booming for CBJ Lang on 4 TCs is Spanish as well. I need to stop using the arrow keys, as you guys were telling me before. Also, Moonlight on 4 TCs is Persians everywhere. So basically the situation is this. We've got Aztec Smush versus Mongol Sling on this flank, and Slung Mayans versus non-Slung Mayans on the other flank, and then all the pockets are on 4 TC booms. Looks like Yannick is also having a little probe around to see if he might be able to do any damage to Moonlight as well. This tile of wall was actually deleted at some point, and it's requiring re-walling. Obviously, Moonlight can't wall directly behind it because the plumes are there, but he's using the market to re-wall behind it. That's quite common structure that you'll see used to re-wall because it's so big, so that you can actually re-wall from quite far away. Paladin's going to continue on with this kind of push in with 1v1 style Aztec Siege Monk Rush. And Dark Devil's just going to carry on walling forever and ever, it seems. There's going to come a point when re-walling isn't going to work because he's going to have to almost delete his TC if he wants to carry on walling back here, but
yes,
we shall see. Yannick up to the Imperial Age now. Only one castle, so he can't mass up too many plumed archers or trebuchets at the moment. Does he have another castle back at home? No, he doesn't. But he's on 2 TCs as well, so he's starting to improve his economy as well as trying to do the damage with the Imperial Age. Obviously, when you're getting sling, you don't want to just do army. You want to try and get an economy going. Use that sling to get an economy going for yourself as well. Nice micro from Yannick here, but 2 siege age weapons and a mangonel and scorpion, quite hard to micro against that, taking at least some damage. But you suggest he's probably going to take out the villager and the mangonel and the scorpion as well eventually. This is the Great Wall of the Mongols over here from Dark Devil. He's got to the point where he can't wall any further back than the walls he already has unless he starts deleting stuff.
Yes.
And once Paladin gets in here with monks, then he'll start being able to convert these walling villagers, and his mangonels and rams will start taking down these walls and maybe even hitting the TC sooner rather than later. Treb's coming out for Yannick, taking down Q's castle, and Q's not even going to bother repairing that because, you know, it's going to get Treb down sooner or later. He may as well save the stone to get another castle somewhere else in a safer spot.
Yes.
He's doing some mangonels to try and deal with the plumed archer threat from Yannick as well. Looks like Yannick has wanted to start pushing against Moonlight as well, because he's putting another castle up against these walls. Those walls are not going to last long because Moonlight is Persians, and besides obviously Goths, Persians have the worst walls in the game, so there's no real way for those walls to be reinforced too much. But this is going to hurt for Yannick. 2 mangonels just taking out all his villagers. Well, would have done if they hadn't gone back. Dark Devil is still slinging, but Paladin has gone into Melkor's base, as well as because he's probably just got bored of trying to push into all this. But Melkor has a castle. Conquistadors aren't really the best weapon against Aztec monks, but Melkor also has 2 stables, so he's probably adding some light cabs. Let's see if he's doing that. Yeah, light cavalry coming out, and 3 of them have kind of sprung out and started killing monks already. This is where Aztec monks are annoying though. Light cavalry get a bonus against monks in general, obviously, and really good at killing them. But Aztec monks, they just have so much HP. Like, even though they're being attacked by the hard counter for them, they just don't die, especially when they're all standing around healing each other. Yannick obviously took down that castle, and now he's taking down TC for Q. The plumes are in. I think Yannick must have just used the ram to go in, although he may have tripped the wall segment as well. Or even he could have done a P-tile, I suppose, although I wasn't looking. It's unlikely though, he already had the siege to go through. Q is being forced back into this tiny corner now, and that castle won't last long because as soon as Yannick finds out that it's there, because he'll just continue trebbing down. Funny thing is that Paladin now has more conquistadors and light cavalry than Melkor does. And he's converted a stable, so Um, Melkor's looking in kind of trouble now. I mean, he's still got a great economy compared to Paladin, but if he just keeps losing army and losing production facilities, then it's really gonna kind of like slow him down and back him into a corner. And it looks like Melkor's finally kind of... No, actually, no, all of those conquistadors getting converted as well. Like, Melkor's just donating units to Paladin at this point. Q's running some villages just in case the very worst happens. Yannick now trebbing down this castle as well, as we might have expected, but he doesn't want to leave this treb unprotected. His plumes are kind of close, but Mangonel could get the treb. Vodka's still booming. He's going to do paladins, researching Cavalier at the moment, dropping stables, taking extra golds. Exactly the same thing for Lang. He's also just been booming, and he's going to do paladin as well. Let's go back to Melkor's base to see if Paladin, the player, this is really confusing because we're talking about Paladin the unit and Paladin the player, see if Paladin has stolen any more of Melkor's stuff. It's quite a decent number of light cavalry. Melkor finally might be able to clean some of these monks up, perhaps, but there are conks there for Paladin, and obviously the monks will just start converting stuff and evening the odds. This TC has actually gone down for Dark Devil. He's had to rebuild one at the back here. This is quite nice from Yannick. He's adding in Halberdier because he's anticipating the paladins from the pocket players that are going to come and start shredding his Mongol army. He's going to need a lot of Halberdiers to defend, because it looks like both pockets are going paladins. Obviously there are paladins coming from Vodka as well, the Persian paladins, but double paladin versus paladin plus plume, we all know what wins there, so it's vitally important that Yannick does add in those halberdiers. Melkor has lost a lot, and he's going to lose a lot more vills now. He's lost a lot of ground. He's not going to have space to continue rebooming. CBJ Lang is in here just with more cavaliers coming to Paladin's aid and just basically just idling the whole of Melkor's economy at the moment. And Paladin now has 5 conquistadors plus a light cavalry. So Melkor is looking in a really bad spot. Dark Devil's just going to run out of space to re-wall here. At least Yannick is doing kind of okay, but he hasn't killed Q. Q's still on 53 villagers, still has a castle, and he's not having that castle treb down anymore. And I think that the Chinese team are looking in a much better spot now, because Dark Devil is like his sling. I mean, it's been okay, but it hasn't really been strong enough to let Yannick just roll over Q, or perhaps it's been a case that Q hasn't used it well enough. I'm not really sure, because it would require a bit more attention paid to solely that aspect of the game to figure out what was going on. But Melkor's just dying pretty much. I mean, he's still at 75 villagers, but that's not enough against the fully boomed pockets of the Chinese team. But
Yes.
at least over here they could potentially have Paladin versus Cavalier, but there are a lot of Aztec monks here that would just see Paladin from the old men just saying,
Yes.
thank you very much, I'll have 10 Paladins for my Aztec civilization. And that's about what we're about to see happening. This fight is going to go very, very badly for Vodka, as he just loses a ton of Paladins. And Lang has plenty of Cavaliers there anyway, and Paladin also had Conquistadors there the whole time, and as you can see, suddenly Vodka has no Paladins, whereas Lang still has lots of Cavaliers. And now
Yes.
we've got an Aztec player who has an army of paladins and conquistadors. Interesting, of course. At least these halbs are doing quite well for
Yes.
Yannick, and the Chinese players are going to be kind of reluctant to go and send paladins to him because there are just so many halberdiers there that it'd just be a waste of gold units. But there's enough paladins here that kind of these trebs are most likely to go down, and Q's kept his castle. That said, he's not in the Imperial Age and he's still only on 50 villagers, so he can't help too much for now. But it's important that the Chinese team keep him in the game, because that could be the way back for the 13th Legion if Q was to be kind of wiped out. So at the moment they're definitely winning the game because of what's going on the south side, but if Q was to be wiped out, then maybe that would offer a way back for 13th Legion, but most likely not.
Yes.
See if Dark Devil... This is quite amazing. The amount of rewalling that Dark Devil is doing. If Paladin gets into there, literally, this is the space that Dark Devil is going to have, and Paladin will be able to stand behind the walls and just convert and siege everything. Yannick and Vodka want to get into Moonlight's base, but that's a lot of Paladins there. Melkor lost the castle, which is really bad for him because these two castles were the only thing stopping the Chinese team just basically parading into his base and declaring themselves the new owners. So because they've had very little opposition besides the fire from those two castles. Obviously Vodka came with some paladins, but we saw how well that works, and now that Lang has gone from Cavalier to Paladin, there's just nothing Melkor could do. I don't know if he's got any units anywhere else on the map, but if 13th Legion don't resign soon, then Melkor could even be defeated. There are enough Rams and Paladins here to just take everything down, and Melkor's onto 40 population and dropping all the time. Big fight over here. Looks like Moonlight just has way too many paladins. I mean, obviously halberdiers fight paladins cost effectively, but they don't actually win the fight if the numbers are equal, and that was a lot of paladins, so it would have required an enormous number of halberdiers to turn the Chinese players back. It looks like at some point the 13th Legion was thinking about trying to get some trade going, but they're not going to be able to. They don't have anywhere safe to trade. Melkor has got something over here, so maybe he won't get defeated if he's able to run something, but he's losing his entire initial base. Yannick just trying to save himself with just spamming halberdiers, because at this point in the game, with all these paladins on the field from two Chinese pockets, the two Chinese players' pockets running at him, there's no way that plumed archers are going to get the job done. He needs like 100 halberdiers, and he's only got 5 barracks and they're all forward. He's actually gone over here to try and stop Melkor from losing everything, but the like Paladin and CBJ Lang they're not going to fight that, they're just going to move over here and probably start trying to do some damage. Q on the way to Imperial Age, and if he gets in the game, then that will just be the killing blow for the 13th Legion team. Right now, because the Chinese team are basically 100% Paladin, apart from what the player Paladin has. It's so confusing. Because the Chinese team's armies are almost all Paladins, like if they just ban halbs, then they can hold on for a little while, but as soon as those Paladins start getting supported by plumed archers, then if from Q perhaps, then they would be in huge trouble then. Vodka's switching into heavy camel now because both of the opposing pockets are making paladins, and he's got to somehow try and fight against that when his own sort of pocket partner is dead. Melkor is down to 14 population, so it's a wise decision for Vodka to go into heavy camel, since he's going to be fighting alone against double paladins basically. But camels can be converted too, and paladin for the old men is just stealing camels left and right. You can see them just see that happening, and as Vodka loses pretty much his entire army here, and as Yannick loses everything over here, then their 13th Legion concede defeat. The story of that game really was that the 13th Legion decided to sling Mayans with Mongols. It's a bit of an odd choice, but I guess it could have worked if Yannick was able to push in and destroy Q. But although he did a lot of damage to Q, he didn't put him out of the game, and then he wasn't able to like go and kill the pocket either. Vodka perhaps could have protected Yannick a little bit better from the paladins coming from the Chinese pockets, but at the same time the smush from Paladin, which initially started out trying to break into Dark Devil, but when Dark Devil just rewalled everything, he moved over to Melkor. I missed the moment when he got inside, but as soon as Paladin got inside the base of Melkor, then Melkor just continued to lose ground. All of his units kept getting converted. He had 2 castles saving him for a while, but Vodka had to help Melkor, and that meant that Yannick was just defenseless when the Chinese players swarmed him with paladins. So I guess the story of the game was that a sling didn't. One team did sling and it didn't work, and then one team had a player doing a kind of 1v1 style Aztec smush, and that definitely did work because it more or less killed 2 players. Let's see if there's any interesting things in the achievements. I suppose Melkor's kill to death ratio, since we saw him basically losing units, and he ended up losing basically 100 villagers or something like that, which is why his kill to death ratio so low. Yannick was receiving sling as well, and he was doing well for a while, but then he lost everything. He had like 100 halberdiers and plumed archers or something, which all just melted under the just sheer number of paladins that the Chinese players had. Let's have a look. Paladin with 36 conversions. Funnily enough, quite a lot of those, or most of those, were mounted units, so we ended up with a situation where Aztec cavalry was winning the day. And it felt like, Vodka did do a huge boom, but he just couldn't supply enough paladins to both to both Yannick and Melkor. And both Chinese pocket players, CBJ Lang and Moonlight, with big booms as well, just making far too many paladins for the 13th Legion to deal with.